Hey guys, it's your Sassy Keto Nurse here. 7:30, the 13th of September. I'm going to be talking about insulin and how it affects your weight loss and how it affects your ketosis and a few other things. Just going to wait for everybody to get on. You guys let me know when you're here. We'll get started. Been a crazy day with the hurricane coming in. My daughter lives on Fort Bragg. I've talked to her 2 or 3 times today, and it's just been busy, and I'm just wore out. I just have got home. In fact, I almost canceled this live tonight because I just have walked through the door, and I'm just wore out. Y'all are getting me with no makeup, no. It's one of those nights. Just running crazy. Hey, whoever that is. Good evening, guys. Just sitting here waiting for everybody to get on. How's everybody doing this evening? Are y'all prepared for this weekend? It's probably going to get pretty ugly around here. Make sure that you share to your timeline so that other people will be able to get on. I'm sharing it now to the group and to my timeline. Hi, Kim. It has been a long day. If I'm yawning, y'all excuse me. It's been crazy. I worked my regular job all day, and then I had to go meet up with another nurse and take them some medications that their pharmacy didn't have and our pharmacy was able to get. So had to run and do that, and then take my daughter to school, and barely made it home in time to do this. Tell me where you guys are from so that I know. I'm coming to you from extreme northeast Georgia, the little point in Georgia that touches North Carolina and South Carolina. That's where we live. It's on all those weather radar maps that you're seeing. It's right underneath that big L. So I'm not looking forward to this weekend, but hopefully it's going to die down a little bit more before it reaches us. So I'm really hoping for that, because the power outages get pretty hectic, and my little patients, they're all on machines, and it's hard to keep up with them and keep them healthy and happy and keep the parents happy when we don't have power. So Kim, how are you doing this evening? Hey guys, Newport News. I know exactly where that's at. I used to live there. I didn't live in Newport News. I actually lived in, right above Newport News going towards the bridge. I lived up there for about a year. I worked on the strip at this little place right next to George's Seafood. God, that's been 25, 26 years ago. Long time ago. But I loved living there. I love living close to the coast. Hey, Lynn. Eating dill pickles. Good job. Keep those electrolytes up. Stave off the keto flu. I don't eat pickles, so. Today I went super easy, and I stopped at a little restaurant in town and got me a hamburger patty with a fried egg and cheese. That's what I had for dinner. So, drank a couple big bottles of water, because I knew I wasn't going to have time to cook when I got home. I was running around so much. But, how are you doing tonight, Lynn? All right, well, we're 5 minutes in, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This one may be a little bit shorter than the others unless people get on and start asking questions, just because it has been a really long day, but I want to get this information out there. I had somebody ask that I cover insulin and how insulin affects your ketosis and your weight loss. Well, first, to understand how it affects things, we need to understand what insulin is and what it does in the body. Because in the keto lifestyle, we hear such negative things about insulin, and it's always the bad stuff. Yes, you do. Very much so. You have to watch those ingredients on everything. So we hear all these negative things, and keto and insulin, they kind of don't mix, and all our big thing is to keep us from having insulin spikes and that kind of thing. But insulin does a lot more than just control glucose. Okay, insulin is an anabolic hormone, and what that means is that it controls growth. Okay, it promotes growth and fuel storage. And when we say fuel storage, what we're meaning, hey Carla, what we're meaning is that insulin helps to take glycogen or glucose from our bloodstream and get it into the tissues and the cells that need it for energy. Okay, now if we're not taking in carbohydrates and we're not producing glucose or glycogen in our system, then what does insulin do? Well, insulin also helps to move amino acids and what was the other one? I know the answer to this. Fatty acids. Fatty acids and amino acids. It helps to move those into the tissues and into your fat cells as well to keep them out of the blood. So insulin isn't just about glucose or about your blood sugar. Insulin is a very important part of your life, and quite frankly, if your pancreas didn't make insulin, which is what type 1 diabetics, that's their whole problem, is that their pancreas does not produce insulin, so they have to have artificial insulin in order to maintain proper blood glucose levels. Okay, so insulin is a transport vehicle. All right, what it's called insulin signaling. So whenever you take in carbohydrates, whether it be from vegetables or whether it's before keto, when you were eating carbohydrates, when you take in that food and it turns into glucose into the bloodstream, your body recognizes that level in your bloodstream is too high. And what happens is you get an insulin signaling. That's caused by neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are controlled by your electrolytes. Okay? So those junctions, they let your brain know, hey, we have too much sugar in the blood. We need to do something about this. And so the pancreas produces insulin. Oh, I've got a storm coming in, so if I pop out, I apologize, guys. Hey, Donna. So what happens is the pancreas produces insulin. The insulin goes into the blood, and it takes that glucose and it packages it up, and it goes to the tissues, whether it be your muscles, your adipose tissue, which is fat, or whether it be the structures in your body, your heart, your lungs, your brain, all those things. There's these little connections. They're like little puzzle pieces, all right? And so the insulin is the carrier, and it has that connection that can help get those sugars or fatty acids or amino acids into that tissue. Now, what happens when your puzzle pieces are dulled? Hi, Whitney. When those puzzle pieces are dulled, you know how if you have a puzzle at home and your kids have played with it 1,000 times and it's gone in and out of the box and in and out of the bag, blah, 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 and hi, Stephanie, and some of the corners are bent and so it don't fit together right? Well, when your insulin receptors are dulled, you get what's called insulin resistance. Now, when you are insulin resistant, which 90% of the population is, when you are insulin resistant, what happens is no matter how much insulin your pancreas produces, it's not able to shuttle that blood glucose, the sugar that's in your bloodstream. It's not able to shuttle that, or the fatty acids or the amino acids, into those tissues. And so the energy that those tissues need cannot be produced. Now, this is what causes inflammation. This is what causes cramping in the muscles. This is what causes swelling. This is what causes the autoimmune disorders, all of those things. So think about any of you that have been pregnant, when you had to do your glucose tolerance test. What that does, and I know it's disgusting. I just had a friend of our family. She just had to do hers this week, and my daughter has to go and do hers at the end of this month. What happens with the glucose tolerance test is the same thing that we're looking for when we're trying to find out if you're insulin resistant. And the way you find out, it's not by fasting blood insulin, okay, those fasting insulin levels. Your fasting insulin levels, yes, they do let us know a little bit about whether or not your insulin levels are too high in your blood or too low. But what we're really looking for is, how does that insulin, hi Vivian, how does that insulin, how effective is it at shuttling the glucose, the glycogen, the fatty acids, and the amino acids out of your bloodstream to clear your bloodstream out? And how we find that out is you test your blood sugar. So when you, like with a glucose tolerance test, they have you drink that orange drink that tastes like, it tastes like Fanta on steroids, and it's like thick like corn syrup, okay? They test your blood sugar at 60 minutes, 120 minutes, in other words, an hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours, to see where you are on your glucose tolerance test, to see if your body is able to handle that sudden intake of a high sugar. Well, here's what I do as far as measuring whether or not my insulin is effective or not. And I just learned this over the last 6 months. When I eat anything new, and when I first started this, I tried it with everything just to see how it affected me. I take a fasting blood sugar, and then when I eat something new, I will test my blood sugar again at 30 minutes, at an hour, and at an hour and a half. Now, if your insulin is effective, okay, if you are not insulin resistant, then at 30 minutes, you're going to have a blood sugar spike, okay? At 60 minutes, that should be starting to come back down. And at 90 minutes after eating, your blood sugar should be back down real close to what your fasting blood sugar was. And if it does that, then you know, hi Cindy, how are you? We're talking about insulin. If it does come back down to close to your fasting blood sugar, then you're doing well with controlling your insulin resistance. That is not going to happen immediately upon starting keto. Okay, it's going to take your body some time. It's going to take your liver some time to adjust to metabolizing all these different compounds that are coming through your body that are being released from your fat cells. It's going to take time for your pancreas to amp up and really recognize the moment that you need insulin. And it's going to take you some time to figure out, what can I eat that is nutritionally dense, that gets me to where I want to be, that allows me to, hey Amber, that allows me to stay satiated so that I'm not hungry all the time, so that I don't feel like I just need to eat all the time. What do I need to do to keep that insulin in check? All right, so what do? We're going to lower those carbs, okay? We're only going to take in carbs, and I call it simple, well, I call it stupid simple keto, but I've had a couple people, hi Laura, talking to me lately, and my program that I put out, my Sassy Kit, my simple Sassy Kit, it's just a macros calculation and a meal, y'all, I can't even talk tonight. I'm telling you, it's been a rough day. Just a meal plan that contains 5 sets of meals for the days. So you kind of get 5 days worth of meals that you can mix and match and move around, and they'll stay pretty close to where your macros need to be. Now, I want everybody to quit getting so wrapped up in being dead on your macros, because the truth is if you stay pretty close, pretty even, you know, if you go over protein one day by 10 or 12 and the next day you're under by 10 or 12, you're kind of evening yourself out. It is a day-to-day thing, but I want everybody to quit stressing about all the numbers so much. The biggest thing that we need to do is eat whole foods, okay? That's where insulin resistance has come from. Because we've been eating so many processed foods and processed everything that our bodies just don't know how to metabolize it. They don't know how, you know, that's what's dulling those insulin receptors, is all the processed junk that we've been putting in our bodies for so long. So the biggest thing that you can do for your body to make things work right is to eat whole foods. Now, that doesn't include everything. You know, no fruit, because fruit is just natural sugar, and we can't do that. Yes, stress will jack your numbers up, and that's where I was going with the next part of this, is with insulin. Let's see. Some foods are what we call insulinogenic, and what that means is that they cause an insulin response. Okay, that's going to be any kind of complex carbs, simple sugars, fruits, all those kinds of things are insulinogenic. Those are the kind of foods that we want to avoid on keto, but we can still get all of our nutrients from the foods that we do eat. High fat cuts meat. Y'all, I really cannot talk. High fat cuts meat, you know, the low carb vegetables, the cheeses. If you can't eat dairy, then we may have to work together a little bit. You know, you may want to invest in that macros evaluation that I just put up. Since I've been doing this for a while now, I have a lot of clients that have been with me for a little bit, and they don't need me to calculate their macros. They need me to evaluate their macros. They need me to go back and say, okay, well, this is where we started, you know, and I was doing really good, and now things just don't seem to be working the way they were. And so what I ask them to do is send me 2 weeks worth of a food journal, and that can be on MyFitnessPal. It can be pictures of your notebook where you wrote it down. I don't care, but 2 weeks worth of what you've been eating and your activity levels and what's going on with you, so that I can sit down and we can evaluate what's going on and figure out how to get you moving in the right direction again. So with insulin, there's 2 types of insulin, okay? Not really, but we talk about 2 types. We talk about fasting insulin, and we talk about postprandial insulin. Fasting insulin is anything, you know, it's your insulin levels before you eat. That's usually going to be in the morning, or if you are fasting, if you're intermittent fasting, then it's going to be, you know, an hour before you decide to eat your first meal. Postprandial insulin is following eating or taking in any kind of calories that may cause an insulin response. So what we want to look at is what else besides insulin can cause these problems. Why is it that, you know, you're going along just fine, and all of a sudden your blood sugar levels are fine, but you've stopped losing weight, or you started gaining, you know, half a pound or a pound? Well, the thing is that when insulin is released, so is cortisol. Cortisol is another hormone in the body, and cortisol in combination with insulin is a big stop sign for fat burning. All right, anytime that insulin's released, your fat burning stops because your body has to process and metabolize whatever is in the body, whether it be glucose, glycogen, fatty acids, amino acids, and it has to allow that to happen before it can get back to fat burning. Stress is not something that you can schedule during the day. Okay, so it's not something you can say, oh, I'm going to intermittent fast my stress this week, because it doesn't work that way. Today has been a super stressful day for me. Like I said at the beginning of this video, y'all got me no makeup, no nothing. It has been a long day. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. I've been with patients trying to get families prepared for this weekend in the event that we have power outages, making sure that everybody's set up, that all their equipment will work, that they've got plenty of water for tube feedings, that kind of thing, you know. And I had a client that, well, it's not my client, actually, it's another nurse's client. Their pharmacy did not have the medication that they needed, that they were going to run out of this weekend, and so the pharmacy here in our town could get it for them. And so I had to go and meet her, and that was unsuspected, you know, or unexpected. When I got off work, I expected to leave work, you know, go get gas, grab a little something to eat so that I would be fed before it was time for my life, and come on to the house. Well, instead, thank you, Cindy. Well, this is the real me, because there's many days, if I'm up at 4:30, you can guarantee you're not going to see me in makeup, because I'm not a morning person at all. But I got off work and I get a phone call, and I had understood that I was going to be meeting the other nurse in town to get the medication. And then as I get off work and I'm getting in my car, I get informed, oh no, she can't meet you. The parents of the patient are going to meet you, and they live here. So I had to drive 25 minutes to go meet them. And I'm like, oh, I still have to get my daughter to school. I still have to, you know, get home and get ready and get my live ready. And I haven't finished all my research that I wanted to do for tonight. And I was a wreck. But here we are now, and we're doing just fine. So, insulin resistant signs and symptoms. Does anybody here, have you been told that you're insulin resistant, or do you know that you are because you have looked it up and done a little research yourself? Because me, when I first started this, I had no idea, and I'm a nurse, y'all, but I had no idea really what insulin resistance meant. I'm going to name off some signs and symptoms. Anybody that has these, I want you to throw me some thumbs up. Okay, some thumbs or some hearts, whichever one you want to do. If you got these symptoms, I want to see it. Always hungry, increased weight or inability to lose weight, especially abdominal fat, bloated or swollen extremities. And when I say that, I'm talking about, you know, your fingertips, how they would get chunky and fat. You have sausage fingers, your rings wouldn't fit right, your toes would get tingly in the middle of the day, or your toes would go to sleep from where your feet were swelling inside your shoes. I know all of those. Skin tags. Did y'all know that skin tags are a sign of insulin resistance? You want to know why? Because the insulin cannot shuttle all that junk into the tissues, and so it pushes out and it makes skin tags. And y'all, I still have some. I don't have very many. When I first started keto, I was eat up with skin tags. They were horrible. I was actually considering going to my daughter's office. She works in a dermatology office, and I was considering going there to have them removed because they were just horrible looking. But skin tags, also dark markings on your skin. Now, I'm not talking about age spots. I'm talking about, these are like dark. They're almost a chocolate brown, hyaline, that show up in your skin or in places, especially in skin folds. Mine are almost all gone now, Cindy. I've got just a few little tiny ones left here on my neck, but they are almost all gone now, which is just a godsend. Male pattern baldness or thinning of your hair. Now, even women get what's considered male pattern baldness, and that's when it starts, you know, thinning out really bad here in the front, and you start getting those little, you know, this back here starts to get really thin. I had never noticed and never thought about that being part of my diet. I just thought that it was because I was old. No, it was because of insulin resistance and gum disease. No matter how often you brush your teeth, floss your teeth, take care of your teeth, go to the dentist, you still end up with gum disease. That's because of insulin resistance, because those tissues are not getting the nutrients and the fatty acids and the amino acids. Because y'all, how do you think that muscles grow? Amino acids. How do you think that ATP is produced? ATP is the energy that our body uses to function. It's produced from amino acids. Proteins. How does your body produce proteins? In other words, new skin, healing when your eyes, you know, you get pink eye and you have to heal. You get a scratch on your arm, you have a bug bite. All of that, you have to produce protein, and to produce protein, you need amino acids moving into those cells, into those areas, so that they can produce new growth. All right, new growth, right back to where we were at the beginning. How is that done? Insulin. Because insulin is the transport vehicle. It's like a little taxi in there. All right, now, when we talk about our macros and we talk about amino acids and all those things, we start thinking about protein. And that's a big question that's come up this week, is protein. And when I talk about stress and how stress can affect us, a lot of that comes from worrying about what we're eating, how much we're eating, and are we eating too much of this, and are we eating too little of that. All right, with protein, y'all, I know that protein is hard to control because almost everything has protein in it. Nuts, eggs, cheese. Cheese has protein. It comes from the milk fats. The thing is that that's what I was trying to explain earlier. Your numbers do not have to be spot on. If you get a macros calculation from me, and let's say that your protein is set on that macros calculation at 52, 56, somewhere in that range, and you sit down and you plan out your meals for the week, and you look it up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at 61 today. What am I going to do? Well, here's what you're going to do, y'all. Eat some more fat. Make up for it, okay? Now, you don't want to be set at 54, 56, somewhere around there, and be eating 110 grams of protein a day, and especially not on a consistent basis. But let's just say that you've been doing pretty well, staying pretty close to your protein, because that macros calculation that I do for you, when we first start that original calculation is just your starting point, okay? That is not set in stone. That is where we start. That is our best guesstimate at what will work best for your body. But the truth is that I don't know everything about you. I know what you have sent me in an email, and I can put that into a little algorithm, and I can figure out pretty close to what you're going to need to start out to be successful. However, if 2 weeks into that, you're feeling like, you know, this isn't, I'm not quite where I want to be, what's going on, send me an email. Say, hey, Melissa, you know, we did my macros calculation, my meal plan a couple of weeks ago, and it was going pretty good, but I kind of feel like there's something that we can do here. Well, that's when we work together and we say, okay, well, let's just adjust this a little bit. We'll just adjust it a tiny bit, see if that works. We'll tweak it around a little bit until we find your sweet spot, okay? Now, here's the thing. You start out, you're set at, okay, say like mine. Mine, I try to never ever go over 65 grams of protein. I try to stick real close to 60, because anything over 60 for me pretty much throws me out. But I don't track a whole lot anymore, mainly just because I know what works for me. I know what I can and can't eat and what helps me, like break a plateau, or if I'm just feeling wonky, or like a day like today. Tonight when I get off of here, I'll definitely fix me a little some kind of little fat bomb, or I may just have some fatty tea. I know I'll have my tea. I'm really enjoying my calm tea in the evenings with some MCT oil in it. But let's just say that you get real lucky and you get invited to a friend's house, or you find an incredible sale on steak, and you bring home an 8-ounce ribeye. All right, you have the choice. You can cut it in half, and you can do 4 ounces today, 4 ounces later in the week. Or you know what? Enjoy the steak. Enjoy the steak. Enjoy the steak and eat lots of fat with it, okay? One day will not kill you. One day will not ruin you. You may slow down a little bit for a day or two, but this is not a sprint, y'all. This is a marathon. This is something that we are doing to better our health, to make ourselves better. It's not just about weight loss. In fact, as y'all have heard me say 1,000 times, for me, weight loss is the side effect. What you're really looking for is getting rid of all those things we were just talking about. How would you like, not to be hungry? Because I'm never hungry. I really don't. I don't think I have felt real hunger in months. I get to a point where I know, yeah, I probably should eat, because I realize that I haven't eaten all day and it's 6 o'clock at night, or when I'm fasting. I had one instance here about 3 weeks ago that I was going to do a 36-hour fast. It was when my hormones were so messed up and I was so wonky and just feeling out of it. And I wasn't hungry. I couldn't even think about food. I was just so not me, okay? I was so not sassy. I really wasn't. I was very unpleasant, to be very honest. I was not fun to be around. And I thought, okay, I'll do a 36-hour fast. Well, 44 hours into it, I realized that I hadn't eaten. And you know what? No big deal. No big deal. I broke my fast with some scrambled eggs and cheese and some homemade chocolate milk with heavy whipping cream and cocoa and a little bit of stevia, and just enjoyed that and went about my day. My lingering problem, because I do still have some issues and some signs and symptoms, and I've been on this for 14 months and I've lost a great deal of weight. I have changed my health radically. Lots of things have changed, but I still have some lingering signs and symptoms of insulin resistance, and one of those is gum disease. I'm working on that, but I have had severe gum disease for years, never knowing that that's where it was coming from. And so I'm still working on that. The skin tags, I said I still have a few of those, and I'm still working on that. Those will go away on their own. You don't really have to do anything to them. Don't have any swelling. I haven't had any swelling or bloating since probably 6 weeks in. After 6 weeks in, I was absolutely amazed at the fact that when I came home at night and took my shoes and socks off, that I didn't have a mark across my ankles or my feet, because before that, when I would take my shoes off, I could actually see the shape of the tongue of my shoe on my foot, because I was a 2+, sometimes a 3+ edema when I got home, and I quit wearing rings altogether because my fingers stayed swollen so much. The belly fat, I'm working on that. It's starting to go away. And the stress. My hormones have balanced out quite a bit, and it seems that I'm probably only going to have a problem right now around that 1 week a month until I get out of these waters, the shark-infested waters, y'all. We've only been here for about 35 minutes, but I've kind of covered everything that I had researched for tonight. I was hoping that you guys would have some questions, some things to talk about. I do have something I would like to address. If you are part of another weight loss program that is, you know, a paid program, or you have signed up to be a client for someone other than myself, I would ask that you would not ask me to weigh in on that, because I'm not comfortable weighing in on other people's programs. I'm not familiar with them, and I do not know how they work. I am very familiar with keto. I am very knowledgeable in how it works and what it does for the body. I don't do a program per se. My little thing that I sell on the page is called a simple Sassy Kit, I think is what I put on there. And all that is just, you know, the macros calculation and the meal plan. For me, it's about whole food. It's not about manipulating your body. It's about training your body to work at its optimal best, to work the way that it was intended to work. I read several articles and several blog posts and some web pages today that were against keto. And you have to be very careful when you're reading those. Cindy, I'll answer your question in just a second. Because the thing is if you're not familiar with the way that keto works, some of these posts that come up, they sound very relevant. The one that I was reading today, if I did not know how keto works and I was not very familiar with the biology of the human body and how everything works together, I could have believed everything that was in that post, and it was pretty scary because number one, it said that keto was a high-fat, high-protein, low-carb program. This is not a high-protein program in any way, form, or fashion, y'all. You are literally under 20 grams of carbs, and you want to get all your carbs, if any way possible, from vegetables. Now, I know a lot of people like to make baked treats and that kind of stuff, and that's fine on the occasion, but please don't rely on those a whole lot, because I'll tell you that the almond flour, the coconut flour, the xanthan gum, all of those type of keto treats, they are all processed. And therefore, it takes the body longer to metabolize them, and it has to concentrate on that. Try your very best, at least until you get yourself to a place where you feel like you're really got a good grasp on this way of eating, to do just whole foods. It should be you shouldn't be able to scan anything into your trackers, because it should all be whole foods. Cindy Richards, do you have to consume a certain amount of fat? I have a hard time eating that much now. All right, so here's the thing, Cindy. You have to consume enough calories a day to at least exceed your BMR. Whatever your BMR was set at, that is based on your age, your height, and your activity level. That is your that's your basal metabolic rate, which is the minimum amount of calories that your body requires to function. And when I say function, I'm talking about laying in the bed breathing, okay? So you do have to reach those calories. To reach those calories, though, you can be creative. You know, you don't have to do oils. I also had somebody this week asking me about BPC, and they were having a lot of GI issues. They had just started, and they were putting a lot of oils. Oils, y'all, are going to cause GI problems a whole lot faster than, say, cooking with lard, eating those good fatty cuts of meat. Those of you who haven't seen the post on my page, this week I discovered that I could go to the local butchers and say, hey, you know how y'all trim off that big strip of fat on those steaks because nobody wants to eat that big old strip of fat? And they were like, yeah. I said, what do y'all do with that? And And they're like, well, most of the time it either gets thrown away, or we have, you know, during hunting season, the deer hunters come and get it to process their deer with. I said, well, I would very much like to, you know, purchase that. So I went and got it, and there's a picture on the page. Y'all, those strips are this wide, and they've got just a little bit of, you know, steak on one side of it. But I take those and just fry them up, and I serve it like a side. Another thing, yes, not eating enough calories, it's not only going to stall your weight loss, it's going to mess up your metabolism, and that's the important part. You're going to cause metabolic damage. So what happens is, if you don't take in enough calories to handle brain function, lung function, cardiac function, GI function, kidney function, and your liver and pancreas, okay? All those body systems, if you're not taking in enough calories to handle those functions in your body, your brain will say, okay, well, since we only have this many calories, we'll shut down the one that we don't need the most right now. And that's probably going to be your liver or your pancreas. Y'all, you can't afford to have your liver or your pancreas not working, because then you're messing with your endocrine system or your hormone levels. And when you mess with your hormone levels, then you're getting wonky, then you start feeling weird. You can't mess with any of that. The last two that will be messed with, the last two that the body will start shutting down, is your cardiac function and your respiratory function. But anyone that has ever had a family member in the hospital, say in the ICU, towards the end of life, or anyone that's worked hospice care, you know how this goes. You know, your body just starts shutting down one system at a time. Well, the thing is that the first system that shuts down in your body will be that growth, the skin cells, your hair, gum disease, your eyesight, all those. That's what'll stop first. And yes, the weight loss will stop. Please make a future live on how alcohol affects type 2 diabetics and keto. Absolutely, Kim, I certainly will. I'll make a note of that right now, and I'll either do a live or I'll do a YouTube video for it. Alcohol with type 2 and keto. And I'll get to work on that. I also wanted to apologize to everybody. I know you guys, a lot of y'all are very loyal about watching my YouTube videos and making comments, and y'all been sending me emails and giving me suggestions on the website and everything else. And I want to apologize because I've not done well lately with keeping up with current videos and keeping them, you know. I had planned on doing a video every Tuesday and Thursday, and I have not been able to do that. Life happens, and my blog posts have not been current lately. I have actually been working 3 jobs. So I work my regular full-time job, I work at the jail, and I run this business. So I have been quite busy and have not gotten around to the social media aspect of things, and I do apologize for that. Please, y'all, if you ever have a question, do not feel like that you are taking up my time, or you're bothering me or pestering me or anything else. If it's something that's going to take me a while, if it's something that I'm really going to have to spend some time on, then yeah, we may have to do a coaching fee on something like that, just because, you know, if it's going to take up several hours of my time to be able to get an answer for you, then yeah, I may ask if it's okay to charge you a coaching charge for that, like a one-on-one type thing. Hey, Sunshine. But for the most part, I answer every question. I'm pretty open about answering questions and happy to help as many people as I can. The only reason that I charge for any of this stuff, y'all, is just to, you know, kind of help me make things better. My YouTube channel is very basic right now, and I don't mean that in the current popular way, whatever basic means. I've been trying to get my family to explain, or my kids to explain that to me, and I don't get it. I'm old and I don't understand all that lingo. But Everything I have is very basic. I built my website. I did my YouTube channel. I don't have anybody helping me. I can't afford things like that. So the only reason that I ever charge for coaching fees or for these meal plans or anything like that is because it does take a considerable amount of time. And I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate y'all allowing me to help you. This has become a true mission for me, and it's so rewarding when I hear from you guys about your successes and about, I had a lady yesterday, oh, I have to brag on her, I'm not going to mention any names because I wasn't given permission, but she sent me a message yesterday, and she had gone for her annual physical. She's been keto now for 4 months, and she didn't tell her doctor that she was keto, because I told her not to. I told her, I said, you know, if he asks, you can tell him that you just quit eating all processed foods. Just leave it at that, because you say keto and they all freak out. So just tell them you're not eating processed foods anymore, and that's how you've lost 47 pounds in 4 months, and how your blood sugar has completely regulated, and you haven't had to take any extra insulin, no fast-acting insulin over the past 2 months, and your A1C has dropped by 3 points. I mean, she was absolutely beside herself, and I don't blame her. She has reached out and grabbed it. She took her health back, and that is the whole purpose of why I've done this. Now, y'all, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Please, please, please stay safe this weekend. If you live on the East Coast, please be prepared. Okay, we don't know what's going to happen. The last one, when Irma came through, they were telling us that we weren't going to get much more than just, you know, some rain. And we ended up in this little town that I live in. We had people that were out of power for a week and a half at a time. We had trees down everywhere, serious flooding, a lot of problems. We need, hi Tammy, we need to be sure, you know, this is just me as your friend saying, please be prepared for this weekend. Please go get your batteries, make sure your flashlights work, make sure that you've got candles so that if your power goes out, if you have family members that use a CPAP or a BiPAP, make sure that you have an alternate source of power for them. Y'all, this isn't something that you can play around with. Your respiratory drive is powered by that CPAP and BiPAP, and it really does make a difference if you miss it for a couple of days. If nothing more, what I have suggested to a couple of my clients is that you go to Walmart and you buy one of the, they're called energy inverters, and you can get them for your car that plugs into your cigarette lighter, and then it has an actual AC plug on it. Now, yes, you will have to leave your car, you know, running to be able to charge things, but you can put that in your car, you can run an extension cord, you know, and be able to run your CPAP or your BiPAP. If you have a generator, be smart about it. You know, you don't have to run that generator 24/7. Be smart with your fuel. Make sure you've got plenty of drinking water in your home. As far as starting today, because this is supposed to hit us in this area probably Sunday or Monday, take probably 4 or 5 gallons of water, the gallon jugs, clean gallon jugs, fill them 3/4 of the way full, put them in your deep freezer. Okay, so that they are frozen, and that way you can set 1 or 2 of those in your refrigerator each day, and it will help keep your food. For you keto folks, I put a list up on the page. Save ice and put it in your freezer. Absolutely, sunshine. If you have a well or something like that, so you may be out of running water, a lot of people in my area still have gravity water. I know I do, so I don't worry so much about me not having water. But if you have a well or you're on city water and you may be out of running water, if you have the storage totes, take a couple of those, fill them full of water, put them in the corner of your bathroom so that you can flush your toilets. This other thing, y'all, this may be TMI, y'all may not want to hear it, but if you do not have running water and you're flushing your toilets with the water out of your totes, Don't put toilet paper in your toilet if you can help it. If you just urinate in the toilet, it will fall down. Cindy, that is an excellent point. I have seen that on several pages. You can fill your washing machine with ice, y'all, because what happens is you can put bags of ice in your washing machine, and as it melts, it'll just drain right out of your washing machine. It won't make a mess, and you can just keep filling it up as you have ice. The other thing is important documents. If you are in a flood zone, I do have some people on the coast that watch me. They're not on here tonight, but I do have some that are on the page, and I've been talking to and kind of keeping in touch with this week. If you're on the coast or you're in a floodplain and you think there's a chance, put your stuff in the dishwasher. Dishwashers are waterproof. They're sealed. And at least if the water level comes up, or you know, you have some flooding, your most important stuff will still be in there. I'd put it on the top shelf if I was you. What else can we talk about? Sunshine, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. My little spider plant's sitting right over there. And Tammy, I will be getting with you in just a little bit. Check your email in just a bit, because I think I have you figured out. It took me 3 days, sister. But I think I've got it figured out. I'm very excited about this, because I'm excited to work with you. Other than that, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna head out of here and take about 5 minutes before I have to drive over and get Hannah from school. Y'all say a prayer for Hannah. Next week she heads to Washington, D.C. She gets to meet the president and see everything in Washington. This is a reward for her from the charter school for having the highest GPA as a senior, and she's going to spend 4 days in Washington, D.C. and get to see all the sites. And when I say all the sites, y'all, it's all the sites, and I'm super excited. But it'll be her first time flying, and I'm kind of antsy about it anyway, because they're flying out on Tuesday, and that's going to be when all this is hitting. So just say a prayer. Say a prayer for my middle daughter, Brianna, and her husband, David. They are in Fayetteville on Fort Bragg, and I was on the phone with her at 4 o'clock this afternoon in Target, and they called for the curfew to be moved up, and they were closing the stores down. They wanted everybody into their homes and off the streets. So they're really getting ready for it to hit hard there in Fayetteville. There at Fort Bragg, they're only about an hour and a half from the coast, and it's going to get real ugly over there. So I love y'all. Have a great weekend. I promise I'm going to come up with some good lives coming up. Hi, Brittany. I'm going to come up with some real good lives coming up. We're going to get some good subjects going. If y'all have suggestions for subjects, please, please, please send them to me. Hey, Patty. Send me suggestions for what y'all want to talk about on the lives, because like last week's live, last Thursday's live, it was so fun. Y'all, there was a good deal of people on there. Everybody was interacting. Everybody was talking. Everybody was, you know, well, not talking, typing. But we had a lot of interaction going on, and we were really getting some questions answered. So make sure that you're letting people know about this so that we can get the word out and get everybody healthy. All right? Y'all have a great night. Sassy Keto Nurse, signing off.